Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we're going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if Robbie quit karate during the events of Cobra Kai Season 6? So in this timeline, Johnny and Daniel will still want Miguel and Robbie to compete for captain, so Miguel and Robbie would still fight. Miguel would be focused, and he would score the first point on Robbie. The fight would continue, and Miguel would score the second point, so the score would be 2-0. In this timeline, Tori would arrive late, so Robbie wouldn't be focused, and Miguel would land the final point on Robbie, so Miguel would defeat Robbie in this timeline, and he would be the boys' captain. Robbie would be disappointed, Tori would arrive late, and she would still be fighting Sam. Those events would stay the same. Amanda and Daniel would still stop the fight, and much like in the original timeline, Tori would still quit Miyagi-Do, and she would still leave. But in this timeline, Robbie would go after Tori, and he would want to see if she was okay. Tori would say that things weren't fair at Miyagi-Do, and that the LaRussos were always going to pick Sam over her, but Robbie would say that wasn't true. But Tori would remind Robbie of when he got out of juvie, and how the LaRussos picked Miguel over him. But Robbie would say that things were different back then, and that back then he was confused and angry. So in this timeline, Tori would decide to quit karate, and Robbie would want to be there for Tori. So Tori wouldn't rejoin Cobra Kai in this timeline. Robbie would tell Johnny and Miguel that him and Tori were staying back from the Sekai Taikai. Johnny and Miguel would be confused, but Robbie would say that he was going to be there for Tori. So in this timeline, Sam would be the girls' Miyagi-Do captain, and Hawk and Kenny would take Tori and Robbie's place. Season 6 would continue, so Miyagi-Do would go to the Sekai Taikai, and at the Sekai Taikai, they would be surprised to see Cobra Kai increase there. Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai would still be at the mixer. Kwon would still be challenging the other dojos to a kicking competition, but Miguel wouldn't want to participate. He would say there was nothing they needed to prove. So in this timeline, Miyagi-Do would still have all their rooms. Eventually the Captain's War Challenge would begin. Miyagi-Do would be on defense, and they would still be doing Protect the Egg, but Kwon would go after Miguel, and Miguel would fight back, and only Devin and Dimitri would go down, and Cobra Kai's girl captain would go down. So it would be Miyagi-Do versus the Iron Dragons, and the rest of the Iron Dragons would still leave, so it would only be Axel and Zara. Hawk and Sam would try to take down Zara, but Zara would be able to fight them both off, and Zara would take down Sam, so Miyagi-Do would lose. The Sekai Taikai would continue. Miyagi-Do would still have to knock the other dojo off the platform. Devin would still be knocked within 10 seconds. Miyagi-Do would still have to fight out Dublin Thunder. Sam and Miguel would start off, and they would manage to knock down some of their opponents. Eventually Sam would be caught off guard, and she would be knocked down, so Devin would join Miguel. Miguel and Devin would take down some of their opponents, but Devin would still sacrifice herself to save Miguel, so Hawk would join Miguel on the platform. They would use a combination of offense and defense to take down their opponents, and in this timeline, Miguel and Hawk would win. And much like in the original timeline, Carmen would still be rushed to the hospital, and Johnny and Miguel would have to leave. So Johnny and Danny would decide Hawk would take over as captain, and Hawk would be conflicted. Miguel would be sad that he had to give up his spot as captain, but he would also be worried about his mom. And Danny would call for Anthony to take Miguel's place. Anthony and Amanda would arrive in Barcelona, and Daniel and Sam would be happy to see them. The Miyagi-Do students would still go explore Barcelona. This is when the Cobra Kais would show up. The Cobra Kais and the Miyagi-Dos would still have their rivalry, so that night would be pretty uneventful. Eventually Miguel and Johnny would come back to Barcelona, and Miguel would once again take over as captain. Miyagi-Do would still fight Furia de Pantera. Dimitri would still start off, and he still wouldn't be doing so well. So in this timeline, Dimitri would tag in Hawk. Hawk would continue the fight, and he would get a point, and Hawk would tag in Sam. Sam would continue fighting, and she would still get a point, so Sam would tag in Devin. Devin would continue fighting, but Furia de Pantera would get a point on Devin, so Devin would tag in Miguel, and Miguel would get the final point, so Miyagi-Do would beat Furia de Pantera 3-1 in this timeline. And during the next team match, Miyagi-Do would fight Redentores, and Miguel would still start off. He would use a combination of offense and defense, and he would land his first point. The fight would continue, and Miguel would tag in Kenny, and much like in the original timeline, Kenny would get 2 points, and they would still advance in their matches. So Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai wouldn't face off. The Sekai Taikai would continue. Cobra Kai would still fight Tiger Strike, but in this timeline, Cobra Kai would be focused, and they would beat Tiger Strike, so both Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai would make it to the semifinals. Season 6 would continue. The semifinals would begin. Kwon and Diego would still fight, but Kwon would still defeat him. Zara and Maria would fight, but Zara would still defeat Maria. Axel would fight Miguel in the semifinals, and Axel would still be jealous of Miguel and Sam, so the fight would begin, but Axel would be more aggressive in this timeline, and he would use his offense against Miguel. Miguel would try using his defense, but Axel would get through it, and he would manage to land some points on Miguel. Miguel would get mad, and he would get more aggressive, and he would manage to land a point on Axel, and the fight between Miguel and Axel would be a lot closer, but eventually the time would run out, and Axel would defeat Miguel. Sam would fight Cobra Kai's girl captain, and she would defeat her, so she would advance to the finals. Quan and Axel would fight, but Axel would be more defensive in this fight, and he would knock down Quan. Quan would get even more mad, and he would try to go for Axel's head, but Axel would block his attack. Axel would land some points on Quan, and he would defeat him. Sam and Zara would fight, but Zara would be fighting dirty and with aggression, and Zara would defeat Sam. So the Iron Dragons would win. Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai would go home in defeat. Sensei Kim and her students would go back to Korea. Even though Miyagi-Do lost, Miyagi-Do would remain open, and things would be a lot more peaceful in the valley. And that is where I'm going to end this what if. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if Robby quit karate during the events of Cobra Kai Season 6? Let me know in the comments below. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.